let's talk about this cap adjustments, the
Mm,
NFL official numbers. So let's just put a perspective in what this means because I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there currently with the cap. Okay, Wayne, the cap for every NFL team is 224.8 million, right?
correct.
224.8 million.
Correct.
However, the NFL does what's an adjusted cap situation. Fill us in on where the Niners are with that, and then we'll kind of break that down.
Yeah, so like the Niners got what 237.5 million, almost 238 million. So
Just like
the
my account, that's my budget for this show.
so the Niners are allotted to spend about 13 more million dollars than the rest of the teams in the NFL. And so when we're looking at this, we're saying like, listen, we don't have that much money. We still got to pay those top the contracts, the top 51, all that stuff still has to get allotted and paid for. So if we want to know about cap space, difference between that cap number that we're talking about, the cap space, we're sitting about around 8 million. So we'll have about 8 million to spend. But here's the cool thing. The fact that the NFL adjusted and gave us an extra 13 million, guess what? We're going to get a player kind of like for free this year. John, would you like to talk about who that player is going to be?
Right. And so the reason why the Niners get this extra money is because players didn't hit their likely to be earned,
Incentives. Yeah.
the LTBE incentives. A lot
Incentives.
of that's Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Because if he would have not been injured, then he would have kept getting that money. We would not be getting as much of this back. So about
Correct.
5 to 6 million of this is just Jimmy Garoppolo getting injured, didn't hit
Correct.
his bonuses, whatever else.
And
But
Debo, a little bit Debo too as well.
correct. But that 13 million cap space, that just means the Niners can spend 13 more. Doesn't mean they have 13 million dollars more cap space currently. Just
Correct.
means that they're allowed to spend more than other teams.
Correct.
Literally 13 million. What you said, if you look at the salary cap this
Yeah.
year, it's basically the 49ers get a free Christian McCaffrey
Yeah.
cuz
And
his
still
salary cap
have a
go ahead,
million to spend.
and
Like
still
we
have
still
a
got a
million to
million.
spend.
Yeah.
Because again, we're getting an extra $13 million just on this year to spend more than the average NFL team. In fact, the 49ers have the third highest adjusted cap rate, meaning we are able to pay the third highest of everybody else
There it
because of
is.
what didn't happen last year. So
This
that's
is why I
huge.
like incentive-based contracts. A, it helps the team out in multiple ways. And B, it makes the player have to go out there and kind of like do some things too. And when players sign these type of contracts, and the majority of them kind of do, especially in San Francisco, like when they sign these type of contracts, they're like, hey man, I'll bet on myself, 3 years and this 3 year contract, like Debo has incentives that he needs to make. And there's times where he can't make them. He dealt with injuries last year, so he didn't make certain incentives. But I like the fact that players are willing to bet on themselves and get paid in the contract at the same time. So it's like, all right, cool. I could get paid this money, but I could get paid more if I reach this goal. Sign me up for the Christian Jubilee. Like I'm all down. I like these contracts, but in the end, it really benefits the team. So there's a way that it can not necessarily hurt the team because the team is willing to pay incentives, but if players don't reach their goals, John, man, that money gets kicked back. We call it the kickback. That money gets kicked back, and now the Niners get a little bit more money adjusted to their cap space.
It's a win-win. I'm a proponent of fully guaranteed contracts, very similar to baseball. These guys,
Oh,
their lives are
nice.
never the same afterwards, but it's not going to happen in the NFL. The owners have just too much power in this league, sadly. But yeah, the 49ers want players to bet on themselves. Parag, he's as good as anybody in the NFL. I want people to get paid. And whenever I see those incentives and I see people betting on themselves, I get it. I would do the same thing. Literally, what you and I are doing now. Like we walked away from guaranteed money to
Yeah,
bet on ourselves because we care about what we're doing and want this to be a part of our lifestyle. And the 49ers players the same way.
correct.
They bet on themselves, and to get that far, you kind of got to do what you got to do. So I think that's interesting.
The 49ers Rush Podcast.